So here we are live with Gil Hedley again. People have asked me to host things where they could have a little more interaction with the teachers and find out a little more info. And so, but I was going to do a history on Gil, but we already started diving in. And he's like, wait, we have to start. So I'm just going to continue with the dive in, and I'm going to assume that everyone knows Gil Hedley rocks. He started doing dissections in 1995. He saw a poster of this beautiful tree, this nerve tree. It was from 1920 and just got done his amazing nerve tour. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And he did his amazing nerve tour, which kind of started the Dalton, Oklahoma City
It did.
presentation. That was kind of like how it all kind of started. And that was cool because I was there. And I remember talking to you about it, and bam, in like minutes, you had that tour on wheels. As a person who heard, I know you had the idea, then you just created it so quickly, and just everyone that's seen it was in such love with it. So thank you very much for doing that. I got to see a glimpse of it, like I said, in Oklahoma City, and I've just been hearing such rave reviews.
It wouldn't have happened without my partner who operates at the speed of a hummingbird. And so uh, I can go pretty quick too. I'm a Libra. We're two air signs, and you get us together and we go fast.
Yes, and you actually did a whole podcast. If anybody's interested, you did a talk about kind of that coming together and the creation of the tour. So I like that too. If anyone's curious to see how they kind of put it all together behind the scenes, him and Rachel did a talk, and it
We did back in December. We did a live with Gil on that subject. Actually, it was fun.
it was great. And that's another thing I'll just throw out there before we dive in again. I can't help it, Gil. I can't help it. It was an amazing membership. You pay $15 a month, $150 for the year. I'm in there. There's so much amazing stuff. Like I said, I told him today I was watching one of his videos and I found myself getting emotional. I got a little teary-eyed because there's like this passion. He doesn't teach from his head, he teaches from his whole being, and you can't help but get into what he's saying. You can't, it's just, all I can say is join the damn thing. Okay, so, hi
Thank you. And hello, Diane and friends.
Gil.
Many of you, I'm very happy to see you all and grateful for your interest.
So, first, like you and I were talking about, and one of the things that kind of got me going was the rules of thumb for using models, right? And you love models. And then kind of the way you break models down. So, I'm just going to read what I've written down. Recognize your model, choose them consciously, use more than one, you'll see more, which I love. And then the test of a model is functionality. Hold your good practices dearly and your models very lightly. So I was like, because that's been like my thing. Like you start, like I would massage people and I would feel things, and then I'd look at a chart and I'd be like, that just doesn't make any sense.
Hmm.
So models, how they're kind of limiting. So please talk a little bit about models and how you came up with that list. I love that list.
Well, they are limiting, but they're all we've got. So let's put it that way. And I use the word models when I'm talking to body workers. When I'm talking to philosophers, linguists, I use the word metaphor, right? So a model is basically an operative metaphor in your consciousness. So if you want to finish the sentence, my body is blank, right? That predication, to use the grammar words, right? That predication of body with my body is something, that equation is your model for your body, right? So if I say my body is an amazing machine, right? Or you might say my body is just a machine. Even those two phrases are a little different, right? From different perspectives, but then you're like, well, what are the entailments of a machine? What's a machine like? Well, it's got parts. If it breaks, you can fix it. It doesn't have consciousness. It's just a thing, right? And you can tinker with it. That's a very common model. It's highly functional. We wouldn't have knee surgery without that model. But that doesn't mean it's true, right? So that's why I say the function of a model is its usefulness, not its veracity. Models are all lies. In fact, pretty much everything we say and do is a lie because we're not tuned into reality. We're in a secondary reality that's filtered through our very limited brains. And then we produce a representation of reality. And so when we speak, we're parsing out consciousness into bits and pieces, into words. It's a very left brain thing to do. Mystics just sit there, they don't say anything. So, so when we deploy a model, we also live by it. And I got my PhD in ethics, not anatomy. So I was really interested in how do we live according to the beliefs that we have, right? That's our way of being in the world, our moral system. So if you have a model of the body as a machine, you're going to live as if the body is a machine. You're going to treat it as a machine. You're going to possibly treat other people's bodies as a machine, very likely. And it just goes on from there. Well, what about St. Francis? What was his model of the body? It was terrible. I love St. Francis. He's a dear old friend. But his model of the body was brother ass. Body as mule. Right now, he was a 13th century mystic. How do you think they treated mules in the 13th century? Pretty badly. They beat them. They were stubborn, recalcitrant animals that you needed to make them to pull your plow or do this thing or carry your bags. And so his model of body as mule carried behavioral entailments with it. He beat his body. He abused his body. He treated it meanly. And he treated it so badly, by the time he was 45 years old, he died from the abuses that he had waged war upon his mule body. And on his deathbed, he apologized to brother ass. He's like, that went too far. Right? You can ask, you want to jump?
Well, I just wanted to add, because there was another analogy that you used too that I was like, was when you said we started off with the Tin Man, then we went to C-3PO, and then we went to Mr. Data on Star Trek, which basically looked like a human being, but there was always, and I love when you said there was always just something missing.
Right. Well, that's, again, the mechanical model is a great model for doing knee surgery, but it's a terrible model for growing as a human being, or having a spirituality, or having love, or everything, right? What did the Tin Man need? He needed a heart. He didn't have a heart. Well, C-3PO, it's like he drives you crazy. He's comic, right? Or Mr. Data. Mr. Data, there are whole episodes in Star Trek Next Generation dedicated to Commander Data trying to tell a joke. And he can't do it. It's just not funny because he's pure left brain, right? He's a character that's like a derivative of an aspect of ourselves that's limited in its expansive potential because it's just working on rote programming like the left brain does, right? So even if we have a really fancy machine, it's still not a machine. I grew up living with a scale model of a locomotive in my house, a steam locomotive. My ancestors built trains. And so I have this amazingly beautiful artifact from the Industrial Revolution technology of the steam locomotive, but built at 1/8 scale. So it's like in the dining room, right? And this thing ran. You could put coal in it and it would go around a track. My great grandfather invented this train and ran it in the 1880s. And people were really impressed with it. It was kind of a cool thing amongst the inventors of his day. And yet you couldn't ride it to work. It was still just a model. So even a working model is still just a model. And it's great because it shows the potential of the invention without having to build out the whole thing. So every model highlights some aspects and hides others. So St. Francis did, emphasize the recalcitrance of our bodies sometimes in the face of our own will and the resistance that we face when we try and work with it. But he could have said, my body is a temple of the Spirit. and he could have gone into meditation in his body and witnessed the divine and had his spirit lifted up. And instead of beating himself to death, he could have been elevated in admiration for the miracles that literally were within him. So when you ask yourself, what is my body? And you predicate that. So say you're a massage therapist, you say the body is a machine, you go to work and you start working on a machine. Do you really care what it says? Yeah, you might listen for the squeaks and the oil can, cries for the oil can, but do you really care about their mother? Do you really care about their aspirations? You don't care about the aspirations of your lawnmower. You just want to know, can you cut the lawn? Can you put the groceries on the shelf? And that's it. So I'm just saying, I don't know what your model of body is. You got to answer the question yourself, right? Or whatever model is, like, what's your model of the universe, right? Is it a bunch of discrete parts? Is the universe just a big machine? Or is the universe an expression of consciousness, which is whole and continuous, in which there is literally no place to parse it out, and all of our words fall short, and all of our imaginings and perceptions fall short of the reality that you and I are connected, continuous, and beautiful in that reality. But that's not the reality we go by. But if you don't just have one model, right? If you have a bunch of, because if you've got one model, that's called dogma, right? One model is dogma. One model says, that's right, that's reality, that's it. But we all know now, because we know about models, it has to be a reduction. It's only a reduction. So our dogmas are reductions that we get locked into with our belief systems and say, this is the only way it can be. We know this in religious beliefs. We know this in scientific beliefs.
In body work.
In body work, all over the place, we settle on a model, say, no, I'm Dalton Miles Kettle. That's it. That's the only way to go. Well, Eric wasn't like that. He started out as a rolfer, right? So in other words, there's lots of body work models, and you can tap into all of them. And sometimes I see this on someone's card. They're like, I am a trained, and then there's 14 different modalities that they practice. I don't think that's a bad thing. You might want to get it deep into one of them. And then when it fails, when it bumps up against the edge of its practicality, then you use the next model, or you'll never get good at anything, right? So, because you can, so this is the thing. If you have a basket of models, you'll be more open-minded and less dogmatic. Three, seven. Yeah, that's how my mind works. So when you bump up to the edge of your model, it doesn't mean that you have to now make everything fit into your model and just reject everything that doesn't fit into it. No, that's when you set your model aside and pick up the next one that might work better under the circumstances.
Oh God, I really enjoy listening to you. So, it gets me so fired up because
it gets me excited too.
I'm so fired up because massage therapists used to talk more like this back when I first started. But anyway, so what I pulled out of what you were saying too was one is another thing that I've heard you say, and I'm sorry to keep quoting you, but there's something you say that I think are just real cool. Don't ask too many questions the first time you meet someone, right? So you're talking about too, like if you bring that to massage and techniques and all of it, right? Some therapists will talk their way right out of the session, right? And then also too, want to be master of a technique. They'll stand in front of me and they'll say, show me how to help the shoulder. And then I'll show them. And then they'll try to do it and they're like a little awkward and they can't quite. And then it's like they want it right then, right there, right that way, the way that you did it. They want to do it the way you did it. They want you to be you. They want you to be their mom. Like, okay, sorry. But so I really like that when you said that, and it kind of twists into what you're saying about models too. That serves a purpose, and if you get too caught up in that one way, and you're not going to get it the first time you meet someone, the first question. It takes years and years and years to evolve as a body worker and a human being.
Well, there's that too, and then there's that nexus of connection, right? Like, do you connect with someone when you show up with your hammer, and then that makes them a nail, right? In other words, you've cast them in a role, and how can you get to know them? So again, back to the left brain, right brain thing, that's a very left brain thing to do. You don't see the newness and uniqueness and potentiality of the person in front of you. You see the thing that fits into your model. And there's a lot of people going at this these days. It's like a culture wave where a whole culture can go into typing of people and the reduction of people to types. It's super dangerous, actually, because it consequently, the actual person eludes our perception. We can't see a person anymore in their individual uniqueness and the bounty that they offer to the whole. Instead, we see, oh, whatever, they came in, they got a wrong color hat on, and now I know everything about them. I don't even have to ask a question. You know, who needs my model? Throw out the door. I don't even want to talk to them because I don't like this, some sign or symbol that I believe explains everything about them to me. Well, you don't know anything about that person. We're like that, though. You know, when we're afraid, right? Because it's kind of scary when things don't fit in your model, right? If you've settled into it in a dogmatic way into your model, it's a scary thing when things come up that don't fit your model, and you either have to reject it outright or try on a different model for the situation, or beat them until they fit into your box.
Okay, so, all right, so I'm going to digress. I'm going to jump all over the place. Sorry, guys, but this is just what I do, and then I'll open up in a little bit. Just give me a few minutes. I just am very excited. So okay,
She
so
got me by my metaphysical balls, and she's going to run with them.
So it's 1995. So the reason, again, I feel like your teaching for body workers is very important, and it's so deep, and it's like, because I think in 1995, when you take a scalpel and you went through the skin and then flipped it over and then you named it skin, because now it's skin. Before it was a human. Now you have skin, right? And you have that skin for the first time, and then you do thousands of hours and you see all these people walking around with these super complex, everybody has their own world, you know, or our own sculpture. Like, how can't you get deep, man? You got to get deep. Like, how? Because the science starts to just be nothing. No, I'm gonna guess that you've never seen two bodies that were the same.
That is a fact. I've never worked on a body that didn't show me something for the first time. That doesn't have to be that way, though, right? That's an approach. That demonstrates a willingness to be surprised. It's the beginner's mind thing. There's a lot to be said for that. Again, beginner's mind is a function of your right brain, not your left brain. Your left brain is not a beginner's mind. Your left brain is, I've got this, you know, and you're working from memory, you're working rote, and there's value in that. Believe me, I'm not a disser of the left brain. I'm just saying, at the expense of the right brain, well, it gets us in trouble. And so to be able to show up and see the newness that's there, because what if I just went to the body, and I do know some people who do this. You show up in the dissection lab with your scalpel and you carve out the book. That's all you're allowing yourself to see is the book. You just cut it until it looks like your picture. Cut it until it looks like your idea in your mind. And now you say, see, there it is again, right? That's the human body. And I'm like, cheater, pumpkin eater. You haven't seen it at all. If you approach it not from that regional approach that wants to put it into the taxonomies that we've already established in our books and in our nomenclature, if you're willing to witness the individuality, the uniqueness that's represented by that version of the human body, which is absolutely perfect in its uniqueness, indisputably so. That's where I start. I start out with the uniqueness of the individual and then build my story of humanity off of many individuals' different stories, rather than taking all the stories and reducing them to one story and pretending that that's the body. That's actually no body.
Something just popped in my mind. I mean, forgive me if this is at all offends anyone or anything. I don't know. I don't really care either. So, like, I always say you never know what you're going to get till you pull down the sheet with a client. Like you see them in clothes, you see and you're just kind of like, you feel them, and then you pull down the sheet, right? And then they present, right? The sculpture's there. So, what is it like? I mean, you're getting under the skin. So, are you often surprised by when you're doing a dissection by the way they present when they're first lying on the table, and then as you go in, I guess every time it's like you're saying, almost like a new discovery, new shapes, new themes.
Absolutely. That's the only thing that keeps you going for 30 years is the newness, not the sameness, right? And I stopped betting. That's terrible. I used to pay bets with my assistants. I'm like, $100, there's a hip replacement in there. And then I like lose the $100. I'm like, this sucks. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm just gonna see what presents, because it wasn't a scar. It was just a wrinkle, you know. And I got fooled. Or you think it's perfect and there's no intrusion on the surface, and then there's all these gizmos underneath, and you're like, where did that come from? So that happens a lot, actually, still, all the time. I mean, I'll tell you a story. It's an awful story, but I'm going to tell it to you anyway because it just popped into my head. And don't you think we should just say the first thing that pops into our head to one another? There's no spontaneity, what makes life fun. So I'm trying to demonstrate the, intimate passage on a female form to the people at the table. And I'm like, okay, now your turn. I pull my hand out and I got shit on my finger. I'm like, that was not it. That was the wrong one. And so I'm like mortified, like I should know how to do this. And so I go in again. She had been catheterized. This time I put my finger in the urethra. And it was third time's a charm. I was finally able to demonstrate the intimate passions. But I'm telling you that after 25 years, I could make mistakes like that. You never have it. It's mortifying. If you are not humbled by cadaver work, I don't know what can do it for you.
Right.
Because it is humbling. You don't know much ever. And people think, oh, Bill, you're so humble. You say you don't know much. I don't know jack shit. Trust me. You go in there into the universe. It's like asking Carl Sagan, what about those stars over there? He's like, I don't know. There's a lot of stars in the sky, and I haven't studied those. It's just like that with the human body. You go in with your favorite things, and you study those favorite things for a long time. And then there's the things you're like, I didn't even know that was there. And then you sort of study those for a bunch. And then there's the stuff you hate or you're afraid of. And eventually you get to be friends with that as well. Now you've made friends with the stuff that you showed up that you hate, the stuff you didn't know, and the stuff you thought you knew. And then it turns out there's a million billion other things that you didn't even think of beyond those, that you couldn't even see because you literally didn't have eyes to see. Your eyes were wide open and you could not see it. So it's an ever unfolding universe, the human body. I have found, I was like, I'm a totally scattered person. What could hold my attention for 30 years? Turns out the human body.
So, I mean, again, like any massage therapist listening, which I'm sure who is listening, that was just a description for me of the journey of being a massage therapist. I mean, it just never gets, because even if a client comes in every week in the same sculpture, they're not the same. Like there's no way from one week to the next they come in the same body. It's just not possible. So I don't know. I just am so fascinated by the human being, the human body, the insides, the outside. So
I admire your beginner's mind. And I think what you're saying is like a factual physical truth. It can't be the same. We're on a spinning planet hurtling through our solar system, which is hurtling through our galaxy, which is hurtling through our universe. We are not in the same place at the beginning of this conversation as we were at the end. And so when people say, oh my gosh, this thing again, it's like, no, you're not seeing it truly. It can't be the same. It is not the same. You are in a different place. And this is just another opportunity to face an issue from another perspective.
And then I'll stop. One more. I know I said this like probably 20 minutes ago, but one more. So,
I gotta first apologize for my gross story, but maybe it carried a point. But I'm thinking about the imagery, and it's like so cool. Think about butterflies now. Think about a flower. Anything but what I said. I'm just mortified.
you should, I think it's
Yeah,
real,
about a dog. Anything but that. Oh my God.
real raw human being. So anyway, one last thing, mouth to mouth.
Hmm.
We're doing mouth to mouth with the entire planet every day. So again,
Oh,
all
I
this
didn't know where we were going with that, Diane. I mean, it could have been.
it directly relates all of this to being an amazing body worker and an amazing human on planet Earth. Like,
Hmm.
nature's not a background, it's our reality and something that we all as people are not separate from, but a part of.
Hmm. Yeah, I am a firm believer that we're not cast out from the garden. The garden is within us. And when you contemplate the garden within you, you'll start to recognize the continuity of the garden within and the whole garden. It's only one garden, just as you're saying. Like the trees within are continuous with the trees without. It's one system. And we're participating in it. We're not separate from it. We're not above it. We're of it. Adam, person of the earth, right?
All right, I'm going to stop hogging Gil. All right, just can I see a show of of hands? Does anyone have any questions? If you don't, I'll just keep going for another day or two. Okay. All right, I'm unmuting. Lila, just unmute and speak away. Ask your question. She's like, I'm asking you to unmute.
Unmute.
There you
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Hi.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Gil. I just had a quick question for you in my many years of practicing massage and then, of course, medical beforehand. What do you say to people when they come in and say, I have such nerve damage in my leg, for example? The doctor said I will never have that nerve damage repaired. How can I function? How can I get moving? What do you tell people? Because once your nerves are dead, they're dead. They can't come back. And I know you're the nerve expert. So what do you say to clients in that situation?
You tell them, I cast off that voodoo curse from you that has been placed upon you by that foolish doctor. How dare they limit your infinite immortal spirit with a statement like that? That's where I'd start. You have to put as much emotional energy and power into a contrary statement to them as that ridiculous curse that was placed upon them by another person. Because people believe that shit. It's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And we are bags of water for the most part. And what does water do? It moves, it changes, it's ever changing. We can heal from anything. And you got one dead nerve, fuck that, grow another fancy one. Don't worry about it. Don't believe that.
So just tell them it's mind over matter. Just say mind over matter.
If that's something you can say with conviction and belief and convey from your heart, then say that. And then put your hands on them and go to work. Because that one little lame nerve that may be bothering them, you can either wake that one up or give up on it, wake all the other ones up around it, or grow a damn new one. Do whatever you want, but don't settle for that curse. That's what I'd say. And
exactly.
Say,
all right.
Thank take you. A little work. I'm not going to say you shouldn't participate in this. You might need to be determined, but be determined in your belief that you can get better and see what happens.
See how I love how.
Okay. Thank you.
I love how you gave unlimited possibilities and give the brain room to be creative with that.
Hope is powerful medicine. Yeah. And hope can be enough of an edge to get a person's own system to self-regulate. They'd be like, Oh, I can't. I had made a terrible deal when I got divorced. I signed the worst papers you could possibly imagine. I was guilty and tired and just wanted to be done. So I signed these really horrible deal. By the way, my ex-wife comes for Christmas now. I call her my first wife now. So she's a great person. So, but I can't put the whole story in that framework. So after a few years of suffering with this horrible agreement, I went to a lawyer who laughed at me, charged me $300, sent me out the door and told me I was an idiot. I was like, wow. And man, was I depressed. About 3-4 years later, I went back to another lawyer. Literally the same thing, laughed at me, threw me out the door, told me I was an idiot. Why would you have ever signed such ridiculous papers? 10 years later, I go to a lawyer. He's like, I've seen worse. I was like, you've seen worse? And then he told me about the paper some other dude had signed. And I was like, damn, I'm not as dumb as him, at least. And he's like, yeah, we can work this out. And sure enough, we worked it out. My wife and I have never gotten on better than on the far side of that horrible agreement, because we both know it was horrible. And now we have a wonderful relationship and we can love our kids together as a former team. And so I'm just saying, like, if you project hopelessness, what do you get? Depression, anger, misery, and stasis. And if you project hope, what do you get? You get figuring out a way, finding a way. You'll find a way through healing, whatever, whether it's psychical or physical or spiritual.
Awesome. Any other hands to go up? I can't see everybody. Anyone? Alicia?
She's got such a great smile. She's got
Alicia,
to be a thought in that head.
Alicia.
Oh my God, there's 1,000 thoughts. Hi, Gil. Hi, Diane. I'm honored to be here. Yes, I'm in an office with other people, so I have headphones. But I'm just soaking it all in. I feel like when I hear you speak, whether it's been a pre-recorded or seeing you live or here like this, I get so much to just contemplate for days and weeks, and they come back like the gems. I'm really here to soak it in.
Wonderful. That's very heartening to know there's a positive and unfolding impact for you from our conversations.
Anybody else? Thank you, Alicia.
Don't be scared. I'm fun.
Anyone? Everyone's all shied up here. I don't know what's going on. All right.
It's all right, Diane. You're the commentator with 1,000 questions. Hit me up.
I'm going to say another thing then.
Do it.
There was another thing that you were, because I like the theme where, there's this thing where people want it fast. They want to stick to in a box, and they want it to be sweet and to the point. And one of the things that I was thinking about, there's a couple. Hold on a second. Let me see which direction I want to go real quick. We've been talking a lot about the models, so I'm going to get away from that a little bit. And I'm going to talk about inner work and growing as a massage therapist, right? So one of the things is that you were talking about in one of your podcasts too, and I can't remember right now what the actual context was, but what I jotted down was, I'll be like, okay, I'm going to go away. I'm going to breathe. I'm going to eat carrots only. I'm going to exercise every day. I'm going to meditate. And I've done this, and I've gone away for like 3 months at a time by myself. And I'm like, oh, and man, do I get high. Like, I am like, I finally got it. Like, if I finally, like, I'm very spiritual now. I mean, I was amazing with clients and my partner before. When I get back, no one's even going to recognize me, and we get into this new headspace, or we figure out this new technique or this new, whatever it is, right? And then you come back and you have your first interaction and you're like, oh shit, like, then it's like having that experience is one thing, but then actually having practices where you learned all that really deep stuff. I'm not saying that that's not worth it, but then putting things into practice and then realizing that that practice, like honesty, like long strokes down the back, using your full hand in a relaxed way where the client fills up your hand and you have that touch that comes from your hips that makes them salivate, right? So like that, all those things take practice, and you can't just go away and learn them in a week, 3 months, 6 months, or in a class. It takes ongoing practice. So when I think of you, I think of that just because, like I said, you've been doing this for so long, and it's such an intricate, detailed thing, dissecting humans.
Yeah, and the principles, meaning the mountaintop, right, where you did your thing. The principles always fail in the particular. That's what I love about Thomas Aquinas. St. Thomas Aquinas, another friend from the 13th century, who taught that. He's like, yeah, the virtue of prudence is the capacity to go from the principle and put it into the practical where it doesn't quite ever reach. You know, the Kantians, the folks who go for that first principles into an absolute application, I feel that they fail over and over again. And so we don't go to the mountaintop because that's where it happens. It's actually right there at your table that it happens. When you take the principles and see how do they work, and it takes the virtue of prudence to apply it, to say, okay, I thought, you know, just by being kind and loving, I would connect with all my clients. It turns out this one actually needs me to be kind of gruff, because kind and loving reminds them of their whatever, their lying, cheating grandmother who they hate. And so you got to be something else for that person. That's what Paul taught. You know, I'm all things to all people so that I might win them more, you know, for Christ, he said. But if you want to win them more for their own healing, right, you might need to be to meet a person where they are rather than where you were last week on your retreat.
Oh my God, I love that. I always say that, meet people where they're at.
Yeah. I mean, for one person, you cuss all the time and they feel comfortable. For someone else, you cuss and they're done. They're like, I don't like this lady's manners. You know what I'm saying? We arrange ourselves that way because you're a healer. It's not, I don't consider that to be disingenuous to meet a person where they are. I consider it to be humility.
Oh, yeah. I love that, humility. Yes, very much so. And I think that, you know, like I said, if you go in with a plan and you go in with a model of how you're going to be in a session, and it's going to be like this and they're going to be like that, and I'm going to do this and this because they said that, it's just, I don't know, it's just so much less fun. I just had so much fun in the room, you know, so.
Spontaneity is an incredibly valuable thing to ponder. Like,
go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'm just going to say like that, the spontaneity allows that meeting to be productive. Because if you've got your plan, I'm not saying don't have plans, have all the plans you want, just chuck them easily, right? Just let them go. That's why I wouldn't even go on talks like this if people are like got some list of questions. I'm like, I'm not answering your damn questions, because by the time we get to that moment, it might not be the question that needs to be answered or talked about or explored, or better yet, conjure a better question, right? So question and answer isn't always, how about question, better question, deeper question, deeper question. You know, that could be a life work in itself. But that spontaneous moment, that's kind of the divine life. That's the breath. That's the spirit moving where it will. That's the potential that can unfold there, as opposed to, oh, let's do this again, you know, because we feel safe and we know what it is. It's a little scary to be on the edge, you know, and yet that's where it happens.
Someone just asked, and I love this question because I mean, I have my own personal experience with it. You know, they said meeting someone where they are is great, but how do you push them to grow? And should I give my response and you want to give a response? Do you want
Yeah, hit it. What do you got?
I always say, like, you take a seed, you throw it on the ground, right? And you can like stand there and be like, grow, bitch, grow! Come on! Do it now! You know, and the seed's just like, oh well, I'm gonna be here a little while. I have some things to do, some things to figure out. I gotta pop through this shell, I gotta get my roots down in the ground, and then there needs to be some sunshine and rain, and then, you know, I'm gonna come up. I just might not come up on your timing, Diane. You know, so for me, the people that have met me where I was in all my crazy were the ones that allowed me to grow,
Mm,
because they met me where I was and they didn't try too hard to take me where they thought I should be.
yeah, or judge you for being there. Like, you're not where you're supposed to be. Well, believe me, the job is over right then. You're not going to do anything with anybody from that place, right?
Right.
We could use other words for meeting someone where they are, like acceptance for who they are in that moment, or recognition of maybe how far they've come to get to that place that you were about to judge as not far enough. Like, if you had tried to go through what they went through to get to this spot that's maybe a little behind you, you know, you might be a little less judgmental. Like, oh my God, they overcame more than I in the last 2 years than I've overcome in the last 2 lifetimes. And here I am judging them for not being far enough. Well, fuck you. Or fuck me, or whoever we're fucking at the moment. But the thing is, we are very judgy. I mean, if you're honest with yourself, you know, we're kind of a judgy kind of species. You know, we have a lot of, we carry a lot of judgment. And it takes a lot of forgiveness of reality.
So wait, okay, we're just gonna keep going in. What the hell, if everyone's still on here and you guys are game. So judgment, right? So to me, judgment, and I'm not sure, I mean, today it is. Today, judgment for me is kind of a form of fear. So really, I can't think anything about you that's not already in my head, right? So everything's based on my experiences to a degree. So for
That's a
me,
wonderful, wonderful summary of the essentially selfish nature of judgmentalness.
so for me, it's just like I have to remember all, like, I was a belligerent drunk for many years. You know, I was angry. I grew up in I had a hard time listening to people. I thought I knew everything. And these are all things that I had to admit to move forward. But then
Mm,
when I see other people that way, I remember, God, I was like, I was so sad. And if I'm those ways now, it's usually because I'm sad or I'm scared or
mm.
something's going on. And it just, I think the more real you can be with who you've been and who you are, the less concerned you are with trying to pick apart why someone is the way they are and they're acting this way. And what if they do this? What if they do that? Oh God, after, you know, being a business owner for almost 30 years, you just start to surrender. Just,
Yeah. And we can only notice the thing we're judging because we already hate it in ourselves. And that's where that forgiveness comes in. It's like, and forgiveness as aphemi, the Greek word, letting go, loosening, untying. You know, because, you know, unforgiveness is a rope you've thrown around someone else's neck, and wherever they go, you go. That's unforgiveness. Forgiveness is a favor you do to yourself,
yeah.
right? It's got nothing to do with some imagined fault of another.
I like one finger pointing at you and three pointing back at me.
Or how about this? How about maybe this person who you have such a hard time with is actually someone you made an agreement with before you got there to hold that space for you until you could find your own reflection in it. And that's your best friend on the other side, actually, just playing a role for you to help you grow as a soul.
I was lucky enough, Master Ohashi in 1997 said, listen, your most difficult clients the ones that drive you the most crazy are your biggest gifts. They are your biggest teachers. So love them. They're the ones where your growth happens. And I was like, I was so glad that I heard that early on in my practice, you know, because it really helped me realize, wow, I mean, if I'm worked up, I'm worked up.
Carlos Castaneda's teacher, Don Juan, in those books that he wrote, calls that person your petty tyrant. And he's like, a real tyrant just up and kills you very quickly. There's no pause. They see you and they kill you. That's a real tyrant. A petty tyrant just drives you crazy. And it's like, if you don't have a petty tyrant in your life, pray for one, because you're not growing without that petty tyrant. We all can think in this moment, I bet you, of a petty tyrant in your life. It may be one that you project someone in, whatever, out in the world who you actually have no personal relationship with, but you wake up in the morning angry at that idea, notion, or representation for you. Or it's someone smack in your office, or it's in your home, or it's in your bed. It's right over there snoring for another 8 hours. My goodness. And so, those sort of petty tyrants, man, don't they get us prickly? And it's like, oh, I guess it didn't last very long because I'm so pissed off. But you know, I mean, it's not a bad thing to go off into the wilderness, but it's not where the real growth happens. The real growth happens in the trench.
And that's what the Tao Te Ching talks about. It comes from darkness. You know, faith comes from darkness, and it's not all an evil darkness, but darkness. And so okay, so we have talked for a while, and now I want to start to wrap it up. I wanted to say, Gil, you have some classes coming up.
I do. They're kind of filling up. I have 4 dissection workshops scheduled this year. The 4th one is full. I guess people plan in advance, but there's room in the other ones. I'm doing 2 10-day workshops where we're gonna work on the nerve tree together, and then I have 2 6-day workshops that are in my classic format. One will be fixed and one will be unfixed. So yeah, I have those going up there. You know, there's a high opportunity cost to come to a dissection class. My apologies. It's very expensive to run these classes, laboratories and cadavers and help and all that. But yeah, I'm always teaching online 24/7 for free on YouTube or in my Easy Rider membership. And then I do have my Explorer memberships. Because the guy's got to pay his mortgage, right? So those ones are actually for fee, as Diane mentioned earlier. And there are, golly, I think I have 330 plus hours now, maybe 350 hours of stuff up in my membership. I mean, and you think, well, I'll never get through that. Yeah, and I thought I'd never get through 12 seasons of Bones, but I did it. And then I watched the whole series again, and I watched it a 3rd time. It's embarrassing to say. I was a little lonely in that period of my life, but I did watch all 12 seasons of Bones 3 times. So that's easily 350 hours of utterly worthless amusement, whereas my stuff is actually kind of educational. And I've gone through it all myself. Of course, I did it, and then I edited it to put it up. And I found it compelling, much to my surprise, to be honest. I thought I'd be bored of shit watching myself for 300 hours, but it turns out it's kind of interesting. So you might enjoy that.
So I'm sorry that it's taken me this long to ask this question too, because as I think about one of your classes, my heart starts palpitating. I get like this weird heat, and my stomach gets a little tight because I'm like, what do I have to be to go to one of these dissection things? I mean, what do you have to be? And then, oh my God, what a huge, I mean, for me, I get a little scared. I mean, what does it look like when Diane, the massage mentor, shows up and puts on a lab coat? And what do I do? I mean,
the first day of kindergarten, that's all. It wasn't that fun. It was a little scary, but then you took out the blocks and saw the kids next to you were kind of dumb and funny.
All right.
That's all it is. I could take anybody All you have to do I don't care when people give me their big list of credentials, I'm like, oh shit, that's going to be a lot to break down. But if they're like, I'm just excited and I can't wait to learn whatever comes up, now we're talking, because whatever you got is going to get broken down pretty quick. By day 2, your intellect will be exploding and there'll be no more room for it, and you'll be left to your hands, to your sensations, to your feelings, to your emotional life. I don't ask people to check their personality at the door for my classes. I welcome the whole person. I want to engage the whole person. And the sooner we can get past the intellectual stuff, the better.
I love that. Tammy, you put up your hand now that we're winding down. Come on, give it to me. Give him the question. What do you got? Kathleen, you're next.
Thank you. Hi, Gil. So yeah, I mean, I didn't even know who you were until Oklahoma City, and then now I'm like a junkie, right? So to your nerve tour again in Arizona, and then I made your integral anatomy part of my entry-level curriculum. And I also have it as a prerequisite to watch that before I do our cadaver tours at Grand Canyon University.
Great. What a nice application.
So one question I had was for them that they kind of lost their donor source and they're looking where to get more donors from, and if you could maybe send me some information as far as maybe I can help them out getting more donors.
What is the institution?
Grand Canyon University.
So they're a university.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there are sources. Send me an email.
I will.
Workshops@gilhedley.com, and I'll give you a couple ideas.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Thank you, Tammy. And then Kathleen, you wanted to say something?
I do. Hi, everybody. Hi, Gil.
Thank you.
You and I met in Oklahoma City. I'm an instructor for Eric Dalton. I wanted to just comment on what you said early on. When I teach, I like to use the statement, I only have one client or one patient, and that's the person that's in there on the table right now.
Wonderful.
For every pattern that I see, if I overlay that on every single body, I'm going to be wrong more often than I'm going to be right.
Beautiful.
And that's an idea that I just hammer in, that you've got to go in with just completely wide open eyes and put all of that behind you and see what's directly in front of you. Anyway, I just wanted to comment then on that. And also, I've been tinkering with a slightly different way to mobilize facet joints or zygapophyseal joints. And I asked you about that during Oklahoma City, because I had some questions about the relationship between the facet joints, ligamentum flavum, and the dorsal nerve roots. So I've been tinkering with coupling the facet joints in pairs of 4s to mobilize them in 3 different directions. And I'm having amazing success with that, in part thanks to you and just
Great.
this discussion that we had. So
How wonderful.
yeah, I'm on a really interesting path, and as soon as I
Great.
get the words to put it on paper, I'm going to make a plan to do that, and then I'll be back in touch.
Fantastic. That's like the most gratifying feedback when people see something, because I don't have a practice, right? And when people see something and like, I can apply that and do service to suffering humanity, I'm like, oh, that's my holy grail of service, is to know that you are bringing it forward. So thank you for your service. And with respect to seeing your clients, just seeing who's on your table, it's exactly the same in the dissection lab. It is the hardest thing in the world to do, to see what's in front of your face, because our lenses are so thick, right? And we don't even know we're wearing them. And to put down the friggin', like, what's in front of my face? It's a constant practice.
It's not
I
easy.
teach this, just like you. I teach this, and I still have to bring myself back to it. I'm like, why did I just cut through that thing that I know? Because it's not like you thought it would be, dummy. So you projected, and then you cut out your idea, but it didn't follow the tissue. You have to, oh my gosh, it's a constant vigilance. There's a level of vigilant attention that's required to be present to people, things, the universe.
I always say every morning I wake up an untreated human being. So I have to treat myself. But Gil, I have to say, I mean, I just love talking with you. I'm just going to start randomly calling you, maybe. I don't know. But I
What are you
appreciate.
going to call me?
I don't know.
Good job.
I really do. I appreciate you so much. I appreciate you sitting with us for the time that you allotted for us and the things that you shared. And I just want to say thank you so much for all your hard work and what you're bringing to our community and to the world. So congratulations on all your success, and we're all wishing you much, much more.
Thank you. It's a great pleasure to join you today. Thank you so much.
All right, everybody, we're shutting it down. Thank you, Gil. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye. See you. Thank you. Thank you. Diane, send me a link and I'll link it on my site.
Okay, deal.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gil. Much love to you. Much love to you and Rachel.
Wonderful to see you all.
All
She's
right.
on her way back from Colombia tomorrow. Can't wait to see you.
Cool. Aw, you guys are a beautiful couple. All right, I'm gonna end
Thanks,
us.
Diane. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks
Bye,
a lot.
everybody. Love you guys. See you.
Bye. Bye.